Shri Vishnu.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya taratmanam srijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya taratmanam srijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya taratmanam srijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya taratmanam srijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya taratmanam srijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya taratmanam srijamyaham. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sangstapanartaya sangbhavami yuge yuge. Paritranaya sadhunam Vinashaya cha dushkritam Dharma samsthapanartaya Sambhavami yuge yuge Paritranaya sadhunam Vinashaya cha dushkritam Dharma samsthapanartaya Sambhavami yuge yuge Paritranaya sadhunam Vinashaya cha dushkritam Dharma samsthapanartaya Sambhavami yuge yuge Paritranaya sadhunam Vinashaya cha dushkritam Dharma samsthapanartaya Sambhavami yuge yuge Paritranaya sadhunam Vinashaya cha dushkritam Dharma samsthapanartaya Sambhavami yuge yuge
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana. Everyone together. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Om Hari Om. Very good. Namaste, everyone, and welcome to this latest live stream of the International Sanatana Dharma Society, brought to you from our beautiful temple here in Omaha, Nebraska, what we call the Vedic Heartland, which is the center in America, at least, of our movement. It's the headquarters, and it is where we have our main temple of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Here we have before us our live congregation. You can't see them, but I can from my vantage point. But it's absolutely wonderful being here with all of you, with our audience throughout the world. Indeed, I'm already looking in the chat here, and I see people from quite literally all over the world who I recognize, from the UK, from Iceland, from all over the place. People here from America as well. I see Erica here as well from Texas. Namaste, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I see Blue Suzaku. I see so many different individuals who are here. So again, welcome. What we're going to be doing today is the continuation of what we have been doing now for quite a few weeks, and that is we are discussing a series of verses from the Devi Bhagavata Purana. And I know that for quite a few people, actually, because I get the feedback from people from all sorts of different places, email, everything, in person, Discord, etc. The vast majority of individuals have found this absolutely fascinating. And indeed, the Devi Bhagavata Purana is indeed a fascinating work. It's something that, as I've told people, I first read a very long time ago. I'm not sure, 30, 35 years ago. I've read it several times now. I've actually read the entire thing in the Sanskrita as well. Quite some time ago. Recently, I began going through it again, both in the English and the Sanskrita as well. And it is truly an amazing work. It's a large work of 18,000 verses, and indeed it has a very specific purpose, as is true for any book. Again, you go to a bookstore, you know, what's left today? Not many good bookstores. Oh, there's Barnes & Noble, a few others like that. You go and you pick up a book. Let's say, just at random, you pick up a book. Is that book going to be about everything? No. Is that book, one book, going to agree or have the same purpose, let's say, of every other book in that bookstore? Of course not. It has its own purpose, whatever its specific genre is. Well, the Devi Bhagavata Purana is part of the Vedic corpus. that is the totality of the Vedic scriptures, and is true, as is true for all of the other works in this vast corpus of sacred literature. It has its own purpose, it has its own emphasis. And that being the case, what its emphasis is indeed to focus on the feminine aspect of God and the Shaktis of God. But at the same time, this work, which again I've read in its totality twice in English, 1.5 times in Sanskrit, so, I quote unquote did my research, unlike a lot of people who comment on this book and maybe they read a few verses and that's about it. Otherwise, they make assumptions. This work makes it very clear that, and it's interesting, it uses the word Narayana often, it uses the word Vishnu often, but most often in pointing to what we call Vishnu Tattva, it uses the name Krishna very specifically. It's very interesting. I've seen this again in the Sanskrit as well as translation. It points to Krishna as the supreme being, period. And we'll see that again. We've seen that already with several verses. We're going to see that again today if we get to those verses. If not today, then next week. Where again, like the other scriptures, it is very clear. Again, all the scriptures speak with one voice, different emphases, but one voice. And that is that Narayana, Vishnu, Krishna is the supreme, and everything else in creation exists in order to serve that supreme. The Devi Bhagavata Purana is no different. It's not at odds with the other scriptures, etc. But again, I've said this several times. I just had to remind people of this fact. Now, that being said, let us dive into these verses where we are continuing actually to speak about Saraswati. And indeed, for people who may remember, this section has spoken about several different goddesses, several different Shaktis, powers of Narayana, because that's who these goddesses are. It spoke initially about Prakriti, then about Lakshmi Devi, now it's speaking about Saraswati. And before we end, it will go on in this way. But right now, we're still continuing to speak about Saraswati. So let's continue. So when you hear the word she, it's referring to Saraswati Devi. So let me first read this entire passage, and then we'll go through it bit by bit. So I'll read the entire passage quickly, just to remind people, this entire passage is in the description of this video if you want to follow along. She, that is Saraswati, acts when we write books, when we debate and judge, when we sing songs of music. She is the time or measure in music. She holds balance and union in vocal and instrumental music. She is the goddess of speech. She is the presiding deity in the knowledge of various subjects, in argumentations and disputations. In fact, all beings earn their livelihood by taking recourse to her. She is peaceful and holds in her hands a veena, a lute, and books. Her nature is purely sattvic, Shuddha Sattva, modest and very loving towards Sri Hari. Her color is pure white, like ice-clad mountains, like that of the white sandalwood. Sorry, one moment. Like that of the white sandalwood, like that of the kunda flower, like that of the moon, or the white lotus. She always repeats the name of Paramatman Sri Krishna while she turns her beads, the mala composed of jewels. Oh, we're going to get to that soon. I want to comment on that. Her nature is ascetic. She is the bestower of the fruits of the asceticism of the ascetics. She is the siddhi, that is perfection, and vidya, wisdom of all. She grants always success to all. Were she not here, the whole host of brahmanas would always remain speechless, like a dead cluster of persons. What is recited in the Vedas as the third Devi is the holy word, the third Shakti, Saraswati. Thus I have described her. So beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and long. Again, this is several verses strung together in sequence. And this is indeed describing what is the actual nature of Saraswati. So that being the case, indeed, let's go through this. People will remember that over the last two weeks, the last two live streams, we've talked very in depth about the attributes of Saraswati. So some of those you will recognize here, but there are some other things that are very interesting. So let's begin. She acts when we write books. Indeed, anyone who is a true book writer understands that they write as a result of inspiration, that they write because there is, on the one hand, their own creativity that is at play, but at the same time, there's an inspiration that arises from outside themselves. And any good book writer, any true author who also has humility, understands that this is the case. You know, you have a lot of arrogant book writers and authors throughout the 20th century especially. You had so many of them. Hemingway was one of the most arrogant people alive, sadly. So many of these people who tended to be atheists, who tended to be Marxists and communists and drunkards, and they drank all the time, just truly very sad people. These were people who relied exclusively on their own intellect in order to write books. However, when you have a true author, that individual uses their God-given ability, their own intellect, but that conjoined with inspiration. And you find this in every ancient culture, of course. You find this as far as the muses in ancient Greece, where the idea is that if you were an artist of any kind, you were a singer, a composer, you were a writer, a poet, anything like this, that in addition to your own creativity, you would derive inspiration from beings outside of yourself. Well, in this specific case, this is saying that indeed Saraswati Devi is indeed the inspiration behind authors. But let's go on. When we debate and judge, oh, indeed, these both go together. And let me talk about this just for a moment. I'm not going to talk about this very, very much, but just a little bit, actually. When it comes to debate, for example, let me just state this. I've said this before, but let me state this very important principle in a very clear way. The vast majority of individuals living in the 21st century, that is our century, and a lot of the latter part of the last century, have never experienced debate. You have not heard a debate. I can almost guarantee you have not engaged in the debate. By the word debate, what is meant by debate in this Vedic context is not YouTube blood sports, the way we've experienced them, i.e. Two angry people who are adamant in their position, who just yell at each other, try to speak over each other, throw ad hominems at each other. Well, but didn't you say at one time in the past, blah, blah, etc., etc., etc. No, that's the prattling of children. That's not what is considered to be actual formalized debate in a civilized sense. What is meant by debate is indeed something that's very formalized. This is something that occurred in Vedic times, that occurred even within the last 1,000 years, the last several hundred years, where the idea is that there are very strict rules of debate, where two individuals will come together, and sometimes it's more than two, but it's usually two individuals representing two different viewpoints on differences in topics of importance, not politics. Politics in the past, people didn't debate politics. It was considered to be of no importance. That was for, that was something, that was gram yakata. That was kind of gossip talk. That was kind of village talk, it would be called. But rather, people would get together and have truly philosophical debates. Now, what did that mean? That meant that you had two individuals who were not only scholars, but who were yogis, i.e. they were individuals who were steeped in meditational practice. So thus, they were calm. First and foremost, they weren't screaming at each other. On the contrary, they were calm. They were respectful to each other before the debate began. Indeed, there most likely would be an image of Saraswati there, and both participants would offer their obeisances and they would ask for the blessings of Saraswati. And it was with the understanding that Saraswati is herself witnessing the debate. So they were gentlemen as a result. They were very kind to each other, the two debaters. And then again, you had to have certain rules. No ad hominems. You know, if a person said something that was not upheld by logic, now this is what's interesting. What would there be? The second word, judge. There would be judges actually there. Oh, and they were objective. They made sure of this. And if one of the participants said something that defied logic, one of the judges would stop the debate. Excuse me, sir, I'm going to give you an opportunity to clarify. You said X thing, but this does not follow from your previous proposition. Do you care to explain? And the person had to correct themselves. Period. And this is how actual debate occurred, such that you could actually hear what the ideas were, and it wasn't fogged in a realm of emotion. So again, what is meant by debate in the Vedic context is not anything the likes of which probably you've heard today. So this is what is meant by debate, and it is Saraswati who is present when debate happens, and when we debate and when we judge. So indeed, I've spoken about this before. To judge is a good thing. Now, of course, we have this silly, made up, truly meaningless, emotion-based word, judgmental. Oh, don't be judgmental. And really, even unbeknownst to the person pronouncing, oh, you're being judgmental, they don't even know what they mean by that. What they actually mean is, oh, you are making a judgment, sir, of which you are not in a position to judge because you are lacking the knowledge thereof. That's what they actually mean, but they don't even know that. In actuality, if you're indeed someone who is an expert in X topic, you have an ability to judge. All that judging means is coming to a logical conclusion as a result of the evidence presented to you at the time. Now you judge. This is correct, this is incorrect. So indeed, when such ethical and logical and reasonable judgment occurs, Saraswati herself is present. Now let's go on. When we sing songs of music, indeed, Saraswati is indeed the goddess of music. This is why she has a veena. This is why she has an instrument. When you see Saraswati, she has 4 hands. She will have a japa mala. She will have actually not just books, pushtaka, not just books, but the Vedas. And in the other 2 hands, she's holding a veena. It's because she's also the goddess of music, of song, etc. Now let's go on, because this talks about music even more. She is the time or measure in music. She keeps order within music. When you hear modern compositions that are disordered, that are chaotic, and indeed throughout the 20th century, I know a little bit about this because I know classical music somewhat well. Throughout the 20th century especially, you began to have some individuals who did quote-unquote experimental classical music, which experimental and classical is an oxymoron. It's kind of like modern classical. It's kind of an oxymoron. It's contradictory, but that's all right. Where the entire idea was indeed to go against order and to create a type of chaotic sound, and it was done purposefully. That's not music. That is not considered to be actual true music. And I can name some of these composers, but I won't. People who know music well know some of these people. They were almost all European, 1 or 2 Americans who experimented in this way. No, she is the order, the time or measure within music. So she is the person who gives music its compositional order. She holds balance and union in vocal and instrumental music. So indeed, this is another aspect of music where you have the singer, but then you have the instruments as well. Well, there has to be an order between the two. The instruments can't be doing one thing and the singer is doing something else entirely. Otherwise, again, what do you lead to? The opposite of dharma, the opposite of order, it leads to chaos. So when you have a musical composition and performance such that the music is going on very nicely in the background and the singer is singing in union with that music, and it produces a perfect harmony, that is Saraswati who creates that. Very good. Now let's go on. She is the goddess of speech. So indeed, over the last 2 live streams, we've spoken about this a little bit. One aspect of Saraswati is that she is Vagdevi. So again, it's interesting with all of these truly celestial goddesses, and specifically with the Shaktis of Narayana, that is the actual powers, energies of Narayana in goddess form, they, in addition to Narayana, have what are called their angshas, their plenary portions, i.e., they have different ways in which they manifest themselves. So Saraswati too has the ability to manifest herself as secondary goddesses. One of these is Vagdevi, the goddess of Vach, of speech. You see, it's from Vach that you get the word voice. Everything ultimately is derived from Sanskrita. All civilized languages are derived from Sanskrita. So indeed, she is the goddess of speech. And we've said this, but so we won't go too deeply. Not just any speech, but that speech that is reflective of truth. When you are speaking in such a way that you are speaking truth, she is the goddess of that. Very good. Now let's go on. She is the presiding deity in the knowledge of various subjects. So that's just setting up what is to come. So obviously, she's the presiding deity of not just knowledge of one topic, but many topics, actually. Many topics, but all topics of which are importance. How, and this dates me, how the Mets are doing? No, not that kind of knowledge. Gossip about what the latest celebrity is doing? No, not that kind of knowledge. But important subject matters. Now let's go on. In argumentations and disputations. So again, this gets back to not just debate, but there being, let's say, various attempts by academicians and scholars to come to a higher level of truth. And how is this done? Oh, argumentations and disputations, and again, not in the modern sense, but meaning simple disagreement, that yes, you can even have philosophers, 2 philosophers, 10 philosophers, whatever is the number of the group, who are eminent scholars, and not just eminent scholars, but good people, actually, who are spiritual people, and they can have a disagreement on something of great esoteric value within a philosophical system, for example, which for the typical individual, they wouldn't even be able to distinguish, wait, what's the difference between this and this? It sounds the same to me. Not to those philosophers. To those philosophers, they see nuance on top of nuance on top of nuance on top of nuance. Well, in argumentations and disputations, when you have, and again, this is the important point, honest scholars, which we have very few of today. When you have honest scholars, honest intellectuals, honest, intelligent people who they are sincerely and honestly searching for truth, but they have a little bit of a disagreement. Then there will be argumentation and disputation, i.e. they will come together and yes, they will have debates with each other in order to come to what is the actual truth. She is the spirit behind such civil argumentation. Very good. Let's go on. In fact, all beings earn their livelihood by taking recourse to her. Now that's interesting. That is very interesting. And we're going to explore for a minute exactly what this means. All beings have to have some sort of livelihood. Now, first of all, this is talking about beings, about human beings, of course, who indeed are endeavoring to have a career, are endeavoring to have a business, are endeavoring to, if they're an intellectual, yes, be a professor, be a teacher, be a brahmana, such that they can earn their living. Brahmanas, too, have to earn a living. They earn their living by teaching, etc. But when it comes to earning a living, what is it that you need in order to be successful? Well, many things as far as personal qualities, but one of which is knowledge. If you are a brahmana, by default, you must have knowledge. Indeed, the idea is that it's interesting, the word guru, the primary definition of the word guru is one who is heavy. Now that's interesting. That is the literal translation of guru, is one who is heavy. What does that mean? It doesn't mean as far as literally, if you weigh a guru, he's 2,798 pounds. No. What is meant is the person is heavy in several senses. First and foremost, he is heavy in the amount of knowledge he has. It's a very interesting thing. The idea is that the guru is not just some guy who is a nobody, who, oh yeah, I've read for a few years and I have some good ideas, I think, so let me start a YouTube channel and pretend that I'm a guru. No, a guru is an individual who has studied for the vast majority of his life, however long he's been alive. If he's 40 years old, he's studied for 35 years of those 40 years, for example. That's a guru. They've studied the totality of the Vedic scriptures, and now as a result, they are in a way symbolically heavy with knowledge. What is the second way? And I'll have people guess. What is the second way in which the guru is heavy? Yeah, all of those. Strong, serious. The guru, we say this about people today. Oh, he's really heavy. Meaning the guru is someone with gravitas. Gravitas. What does gravitas mean? Dhira in the Sanskrit. Gravitas. The guru is someone who, they don't play around. That's what's meant by heavy. They're a individual who you need to take seriously. If you make the mistake of not taking the person seriously and you're actually in their physical presence, that will be a mistake. No, not because they're going to jump off of their seat and hit you, but spiritually speaking, it will be a mistake. You take the individual seriously if you wish to learn anything from that individual. That's the guru. They're heavy, but more, they're heavy with knowledge. So very nice. So indeed, in every way, we earn our livelihoods with the blessings of Saraswati. So again, there's the guru, there are the brahmanas. How about kshatriyas? How about individuals who are administrators, true leaders, not petty little politicians like we have today, but real leaders? Do they have to have knowledge? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, you better believe it. A real leader is not just a quote-unquote man of action. They know how to get things done, but they're a dummy. No, they are people who they have knowledge. They have to have studied geopolitics. They have to have studied strategy. They have to be individuals who understand human nature, who understand psychology. They have to understand history. They have to understand the mistakes of history, the good things of history that they are to grab onto. They are to understand policy. They are to understand economics, etc., etc., etc. If they are the sort of kshatriya who is a warrior, oh yes, they have to learn 798 ways of killing a person with a steak knife. They have to learn the martial arts, etc. So indeed, they have to have knowledge for their livelihood. What about business people? Yes, they have to have knowledge in whatever their profession is, whatever is the industry in which they are operating. You're going to run a restaurant? Oh, well, I've never run it. I know nothing about restaurants. I go out to a restaurant about 3 times a year and don't really know anything about food or what's really good food. I don't know. I kind of like hot dogs myself. I'm not sure. That's not someone who's going to be successful. You need to know your profession and have the specific skills that you need. So thus, indeed, she's the, in fact, all beings earn their livelihood by taking recourse to her, Saraswati. Now let's go on. Now it starts to describe some of the personal features of Saraswati. She is peaceful. Ooh. Of course, you see depictions of Saraswati always. And what do you see? There are many different depictions of Saraswati, both in paintings, and you can buy posters of her. Indeed, there are, of course, statues, images, murtis, etc. And what do you see? Someone who is very peaceful. Peaceful in her countenance, peaceful in how she sits, etc. She radiates peace. Why is this the case? Because the most peaceful lifestyle imaginable is that of the Brahmana. Stated bluntly. The most peaceful lifestyle is that of the Brahmana. And why? Because they are steeped in all of those arts and sciences that are derived directly from God. That being the case, indeed, she being the goddess of the Brahmanas, she herself also is at peace at all times. And you see this. Let's go on. She holds in her hands a veena. So again, you could call this a lute. It's a stringed instrument that is truly beautiful. They still exist to this day. Indeed, in classical Indian music, classical Vedic music, they still play the veena. So this is what symbolizes she is a goddess of the arts, of music, etc. And she holds books. Very specifically, not just any books. but she holds the Vedas in her hand, and in fact the 4 Vedas very specifically, the Veda Samhitas. Why is this the case? Well, this is in keeping with her nature. She is, again, the goddess of knowledge, of wisdom, of the Veda, of civilization, the arts, etc. She is the goddess of all of those higher faculties of a human being that they either have developed or that they should develop. So thus she holds in her hands the Vedas. Let's go on. Her nature is purely sattvic, pure sattva, shuddha sattva is in the Sanskrit. Shuddha sattva, shuddha means pure, sattva means goodness. So her nature is pure goodness, purely sattvic. Of course, again, given what I just said, that she represents truly, culturally, spiritually, intellectually, the highest, the loftiest attainments that can be achieved. That is Sarasvati. That being the case, her nature, i.e. her essential nature, what her personality is that of pure goodness. She is modest. Indeed, this is one of the things that is missing today. When I say today, throughout the Kali Yuga, but increasingly as each century has gone on, and now that things are moving exponentially fast, each decade, each year, almost each month. One thing that you see now is that it is very difficult for people to do this specific thing that in the past was easy, and that is to couple attainment with humility. Now when someone has attainment, first of all, whether it actually is attainment or not is itself debatable. Many of the, of course, speaking about the arts, many of the so-called artists today, they really have no attainment. They're actually not very good, but they still at the same time are very arrogant, and they're convinced that they're the best artist who's ever lived, the best singer, the best musician, this is the best band that has ever existed, etc., when it's hardly the case, but they still have that arrogance, that humility is not there. Well, the idea is that for an individual to be truly a noble individual, Arya, truly noble, they have to be able to bring together, on the one hand, true personal accomplishment, but coupled with humility. They don't become arrogant because, okay, I am a really good singer. They give the glory to God. To state it in a way that many people have heard, but not many people have actually understood what this true spiritual motion is. That whatever is the talent that you have, yes, I recognize I'm extremely good at this. I'm an extremely good violin player. I'm an extremely good drum player. I'm extremely good martial artist, etc., etc. Yes, I recognize that, but the glory does not go to me. The glory goes to God. This is how people are meant to think, so that you couple that accomplishment with humility. So thus, she is the goddess too of modesty. Let's go on. And very loving toward Sri Hari. Sri Hari. Hari is a name of Narayana. Is one of the 1,000 primary, there are many, one of the primary 1,000 names of Narayana is Hari. Hari is Narayana, so she is very loving toward Narayana. Now, given what we have spoken about Saraswati in recent talks, why is this the case? What is her relationship, Saraswati, to Narayana? Anyone? I can't hear people who are watching online, but I can hear people in our congregation. Why is she?
She's a devotee.
She's more than a devotee. You're a devotee.
She's a Shakti.
She is a Shakti. She is a consort of Sri Hari, of Narayana. So that being the case, she is very loving toward Sri Hari. She is the consort, but also, yes, she is a Vaishnava. She is a devotee. Let there be, no doubt about this, but let's go on. Her color is pure white, like ice-clad mountains. Now, it's interesting. This is something that is spoken of throughout the Vedic scriptures. And this goes on to give example after example to explain to you how white she is. Let me make this clear. Saraswati is extremely white. In fact, there are other passages where it explains that she is white like ivory. And it gives example after example. This does too. It doesn't say ivory in this case, but it gives example after example. She is someone who is known to actually be, and let me just state this very clearly. Let me ask people, what color hair would you think Saraswati has? There are only so many choices.
Gold.
The pictures always have dark hair.
The pictures, modern pictures, last 40, 50 years, yeah, she has jet black hair. Is that how the Vedic scriptures describe her? What?
No.
What was her hair like?
It's white.
It's blonde. No, her hair is blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, her hair is blonde, actually, and indeed in other places, not here, it doesn't touch upon that. It's talking about her skin color here. But in other places that I've read, everyone else has read, she is white like ivory and she has blonde hair. All right? But now this is talking about her pallor very specifically. So her color is pure white and nice, like ice-clad mountains. You can envision that. A mountain that is covered with snow and ice. Oh, very white. Like that of white sandalwood. Indeed, this is a special form of sandalwood that specifically is white. Like that of the kunda flower. Does anyone know what a kunda flower is?
It's jasmine.
Very
I
good.
actually put it in the chat.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't see that. I don't watch the chat. Very nice. Yes, indeed. If you look at a jasmine flower, indeed, again, it's very white. So this verse is trying to make it very clear what her skin color is. You know, it doesn't give one example. It goes on and on and on. Like that of the moon or the white lotus. Indeed, there is such a thing as a white lotus. So Sarasvati, her color is as white as is humanly conceivable, more white than any European, and she has blonde hair. Now let's go on. She always, now this is of importance. Here we go. Again, what I was saying before and what I've been repeating, and I'm sure, you know, they're intelligent enough to not try to contradict what I say in the chat, because they know that would be a mistake, because I have the knowledge and the tons, talk about weight, of scriptural verses to back this up. But indeed, the Devi Bhagavata Purana says again and again and again that all these goddesses worship Narayana. So here we go. She always repeats the name of Paramatman, Sri Krishna, as she turns her beads, her mala. So very nice. So indeed, she has a mala, as we said earlier. That's one of the things that she's known to carry in her four arms, in her four hands. So she has a mala, and she is reciting. And what is she reciting? She is reciting the name specifically of Lord Sri Krishna as Paramatman. In other words, this means something specific. Again, what have I said? Every single word in every single verse has meaning of the Vedic scriptures. Paramatman Sri Krishna. So not just Sri Krishna, but specifically, she is meditating on Sri Krishna within her heart. Paramatman means that aspect of God that is very specifically within the heart region. So this is what is being said, that as you see Saraswati, if you ever had the opportunity to, you would see her meditating and with the Japamala, and what she's meditating upon specifically is Sri Krishna within her heart as her Paramatman, in the same way that Sri Krishna, Narayana, is the Paramatman of all beings. So again, the Devi Bhagavata Purana does not contradict any other scripture, because every scripture either says or clearly alludes to this fact. Narayana is God. Period. Very good. Now let's go on. More about the mala. Composed of jewels. This is truly beautiful. Now, within the Vedic tradition, and I'm talking about the authentic Vedic tradition, not some sect that was founded 100 years ago or 150 years ago in Calcutta or someplace. No, we're talking about in the real Vedic tradition going back to the Dwapara Yuga. The idea of number one, Japamala, obviously is not only universal, but it's eternal. Thus, it wouldn't be even spoken of in the Vedic scriptures. It goes back that far, so it's being discussed here. But more, there are different kinds, interestingly, of Japamala in accordance with not just sect. Again, this is modern Hinduism, where they will say, oh yes, the Vaishnavas use Tulasi, the Shaivas, oh, they use Rudraksha. It's a sectarian thing. No. That's a small part of it. It's not sectarian. You use the sort of mala, indeed, in accordance with the deity you are worshipping. So, for example, for Lakshmi Devi, you use lotus seed mala. A lot of people aren't aware of that. If you can get it, you use lotus seed mala. Now, she's a Vaishnava, she's the consort of Vishnu. Why would you not use tulasi wood for her? You can, but if you're very specifically devoted to Lakshmi Devi, you use lotus seeds, very interestingly. And indeed, it's not sectarian. You use a specific kind of mala in accordance with who you are worshipping, the specific sadhana practice that you are engaging in, and what is your ultimate goal with your sadhana practice. So how interesting is it that Sarasvati, given her exalted nature, in the same way that we would use, Rudraksha beads, Tulasi beads, lotus seed beads, and there are other kinds of beads you can use, she uses pure jewels. When we say jewels, of course, what do we mean? Not the kind of jewels you would get at Walmart, not even much better than that, Costco. No, we're not talking about the kind of jewels that you could even go to Tiffany's on Fifth Avenue and acquire. We're talking about jewels the likes of which one of these jewels would be worth more than every jewel combined within a Brahmanda, a material universe. One jewel. Because they are transcendental in nature. They are self-lustrous, self-illuminating jewels. And she has a mala of 108 such jewels with a head mala, a head jewel. This is what she meditates upon. Imagine, again, the grandeur, imagine the just amazing nature of such a being, that this is her mala. Now let's go on. Her nature is ascetic. Very nice. Indeed, this is a part of her nature. She is ascetic. Now, what is meant by this and why is this mentioned here? When you look at Saraswati, again, what does she represent? Both conceptually and in practice, both. What is it that she represents? Well, everything we've been speaking about. But what is the common denominator of all these things? These are all of the natures of Brahminical life, of pure Shuddha Sattva, indeed, not just goodness, not just Sattva, not just that, she leads a Sattvic life. No, beyond that. Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, absolute purity. So all this being the case, how does an individual human now acquire any of these qualities? How does an individual become like a Brahmana? How does an individual become learned? How does an individual become wise? How does an individual become self-disciplined? How does an individual become patient? How does an individual gain the ability to do sadhana each and every day for, if necessary, several hours a day, 7 days a week, every day without fail? How does an individual become like this, i.e. replicate the highest, what Saraswati represents? How does an individual become like this? Tapasya, asceticism. That is, you make yourself strong. You make yourself like a living fire. Tapas, tapas. Tapas means fire. Interesting. Tapas means austerity. It also literally means fire. So what does that mean? When we do anything that is a difficult discipline such that our goal is to eventually become something better, something higher from whence we found ourselves, it's hard. And it's almost like creating a fire within ourselves in order to achieve such a thing. Well, it says here that her nature is ascetic. That indeed, if we ourselves wish to acquire those qualities that Saraswati herself represents, well, this is what she is. She is an ascetic. She is an individual who, again, how do I like to say it? She plays no games. She is strong. She represents truth as sharp as a sword. So indeed, when you're dealing with Saraswati, you're dealing with someone who is a very serious, fiery individual, yet peaceful. Yet peaceful. And how do we acquire those qualities? We also have to become ascetic. But let's go on. Her nature is ascetic, and now here we are. She is the bestower of the fruits of asceticism, of the ascetics. So indeed, when you have individuals who are tapasvi is the term, an ascetic, one who does asceticism, one who does tapasya as a tapasvi. when you are such an individual, when you do your asceticism, you take some vow. Oh, I'm going to do something, as simple as, let's say, intermittent fasting, or I'm going to do a serious fast, or I'm going to do X thing that is very difficult in order to improve myself, etc. When you achieve those fruits, finally, that is as a result of the blessings, the grace of Sarasvati herself. Very good. Now let's go on. I believe we can finish this passage. Just need a few more minutes. I would like to finish this passage so that next week we can go on to the next section that we're going to be looking at. She is the Siddhi. In fact, let me read this whole sentence, then we'll analyze it. She is the Siddhi, perfection, and Vidya, wisdom of all. So again, of all. Of literally all. Is everyone seeking perfection and wisdom? All human beings? Is every human being consciously seeking this? No. So indeed, people will accuse us of elitism. We don't care. That's fine. Everything that's being described here, this is information. This is knowledge for serious people. This is not for everyone. Indeed, this is the nature of Sanatana Dharma, is that we believe very much in hierarchy. I was interviewed last night by Arval, someone with another wonderful channel, beautiful channel, and we talked about this a little bit, about the nature of hierarchy in accordance with Sanatana Dharma. Well, hierarchy is as central to Sanatana Dharma as it is to nature itself. The central feature of nature is hierarchy. That is, that you have just all right, better, best, supreme, etc. So you have, these various levels that exist. Well, all this knowledge is not meant for just anyone. It's meant for those individuals who truly are seeking to make themselves better, to seek excellence and elevate themselves in every way, primarily spiritually, but in every aspect, really, of who they are. So with all that being said, she is the Siddhi of all. She is the perfection of all. Siddhi. Siddhi means literally perfection. A Siddha is one who is perfected. So thus, there are individuals who are called Siddhas. And what it means to be a Siddha is that you have Siddhis. You have perfected yourself, and you have acquired very specific perfections. And we've spoken about this in a previous talk where I went very deeply into the exactly what it means to be a Siddha. So I'm not going to do that now. But anyone who achieves a perfection, she is that. She is that perfection. And then Vidya as well, wisdom. There's a minority of individuals, of human beings, who are truly seeking wisdom. Not just acquisition of facts that they can show off about, but are seeking true wisdom. That knowledge which is of the nature of eternality. That is wisdom. Well, when an individual human being indeed acquires wisdom, it is due to the grace of Sarasvati alone that people will acquire wisdom. Let's go on. She grants always success to all. Indeed, when an individual achieves success in any important way, it is because of Sarasvati. And why is this the case? One could say, well, but I want to achieve success in becoming very rich. Well, what did we talk about before? There's no such thing as advancing yourself, having success, etc., without knowledge. She gives the insight. She gives the wisdom. She gives the knowledge such that now we have the ability to achieve success. So she is responsible for success. Now this is nice. This is very nice. Were she not here, i.e. if there were no Saraswati, the whole host of Brahmanas would always remain speechless, like a dead cluster of persons. Very visual, but very true. You can imagine the community of Brahmanas. And when we say Brahmanas, have to repeat this again and again and again. We're not talking about caste. We're not talking about caste. We're not talking about caste. This has nothing to do with caste. This has nothing to do with you were born in the Brahmin caste. It's not what we're talking about. That's not what the scripture is talking about. By Brahmana, what is meant is that element of society who they are inherently wise, intelligent, pure. They are individuals who have humility. They are individuals who are spiritual. They are intellectual. They are teachers, etc., etc. When you look at the totality of this community, and this community Individual representatives are found in multiple nations throughout the world. A few of them are in India, many of them are in Europe, many of them are in North America, in Latin America, in all throughout Asia, etc., etc. You have a lot of brahmanas in Korea and Japan, etc. If you look at the totality of this community, if Saraswati, quote unquote, were not here, they would not be able to even utter a word of wisdom. This is what is meant by this. They would be speechless. Now, what does that mean? That literally they would open their mouth and no sound would come out? No, of course not. What it means is that their speech would be worthless. Their speech would be worthless. So it is Saraswati who gives the brahmanas their wisdom such that when they speak, they can convey knowledge, they can convey truth, etc. This is something I've saved till now. Even in my introduction to this, I didn't really speak about this, but now is the time. I'm going to just say this before we finish up with this. All the various aspects of Saraswati. What is one that I have not mentioned up till now? Not just the attributes, but what is another manifestation of Saraswati? I'll give you very big hints. That was at one time found upon the earth in liquid form. That's a big hint. Yes. The river Sarasvati. The river Sarasvati, which, if you're a Vedic person in any way, you've heard of this. The river Sarasvati is the manifestation of the goddess Sarasvati in river form. People don't know this. People don't understand what things were like in the truly Vedic era, meaning 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. Even in the first 1,000 years of the Kali Yuga, what to speak of before that, in the Dvapara Yuga. People hear about the Ganga all the time, how important, how sacred the Ganga is. And she is. And it's not an it, it's a she. She is. And the Yamuna River, and so many rivers that are there that are sacred. But throughout the totality of the Vedic scriptures, interestingly, what is considered to be the most sacred of all rivers? Nope. Sarasvati. The Sarasvati River is considered to be the most sacred. This is why when you hear depictions of when the Sarasvati was here, she is described as vast. Vast. All of the rivers in comparison are tiny little creeks compared to how enormous she was, how powerful she was. And more, again, the Sarasvati River, like the goddess Sarasvati, represented, and I have to say in the past tense, what? Vedic civilization. The Brahmanas would do their yagyas along the banks of the sacred Sarasvati River. Classes would take place. You would have Brahmanas and they would be teaching their students, 30 students, however big their class was. They would be sitting on the banks. The river would be behind the guru, behind the teacher, flowing, and the students would be sitting there before him, and on and on. But more, the Sarasvati River represents Vedic civilization. Correct? And what do we know about the Sarasvati River? What we know is that she's gone. She's now gone. She disappeared approximately 4,000 years ago. At the very beginning of the Kali Yuga, the Sarasvati River herself withdraws from this world. And why? Because Vedic civilization started to end at the very beginning of the Kali Yuga. So now when we think about the Sarasvati, and it's interesting, again, this is as an aside, but it is an important aside. When the first Indologists and the first Europeans, when they went to India and began to explore this culture that they could scarcely even begin to understand 0.1% about, when they started hearing about this river, the Sarasvati, well, where is that? I don't see a Sarasvati River. Oh, where is this? It must be a myth. 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 So thus it started to be referred to as the mythical Sarasvati, the mythical Sarasvati. Indeed, as someone who, I have a PhD in South Asian studies, etc., and I know the entire history of how Europeans studied both Sanatana Dharma, but also India, etc., it came to the point where, in my mind, that was the name of the Sarasvati River, the mythical Sarasvati, because they repeated this so much. Well, of course, what happened? Well, we started to have something in modern times called satellites. And as a result of satellite imagery, you actually can see the tracks of the now dried up Sarasvati. It is there, and now no one calls it the mythical Sarasvati River anymore because you can see it from space, number one. Number two, once in a while, if there's an earthquake in Gujarat or in some place, exactly where the river is reported to be, water will start springing up out of the ground. She exists. She's gone underground. She's disappeared from human sight, but she's still there. This is the Sarasvati in river form. She's still there, but she's disappeared from human sight. Why? Because we are no longer worthy of her in the last 4,000 years of the Kali Yuga. Now, this is something that I have predicted. I don't know if it will happen in my lifetime or in the future when I'm no longer here. But at some point in the future, we will see the Saraswati River again, and she will be as strong as she was at her height. The Saraswati River will arise again, and so will Vedic civilization. Very good. Now let's finish this up. What is recited in the Vedas as the third Devi is the holy word. So indeed, this is closing things up here as far as this section. So we're talking still about Saraswati, and very specifically that she also is Shabda. That is what is meant by holy word. This is not my translation. I fixed it up a little bit to make it better, but this is the translation of the individual. He translated Shabda, which is what it was in the Sanskrit when I read it, into holy word, and that's fine. I left it alone. But indeed, what is recited in the Vedas as this third Devi, as Saraswati, is Shabda. She is Shabda. She is the sacred sound vibration, which then becomes Veda. That's why she holds the Vedas in her hand. And let's go on. The third Shakti, Saraswati. So now it names her Saraswati. Thus I have described her. And indeed, thus I have. In replication of the Devi Bhagavata Purana. Very nice. Wonderful. So all that being said, we're going to end here. And indeed, I'm glad that we got through this, because this is the end of this section where Saraswati very specifically is mentioned. And it goes very, very in depth. So thus far, we have spoken about 3 of the Shaktis of Narayana, 3 of the powers in feminine form of Narayana. So we will end here. And as you can probably see, those who know me and looking at my facial expression, I'm debating with myself, should I take a few questions? Only because of the fact that it's 3:11 right now, and it's a little bit late. Should I take some questions? Should I? Okay, very good. Not for very long. But with that, because, we have our congregation here and they've been here for some time, we'll take a few questions for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, something like that. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free. You can just use the chat and ask your questions. What we ask is that you ask questions in sincerity, in humility, and in honesty, and that you ask questions that are pertinent to either what we're talking about today or Sanatana Dharma in general. So with that, please feel free. And if anyone here in the audience has any questions as well, please feel free. You have a question, please ask nice and loudly.
Has Vishnu ever come to Earth as an avatar with more than one consort?
Yes, it has happened actually. In fact, that's the case with Krishna specifically. But in the case of Krishna, they are all manifestations of Lakshmi Devi. So when Krishna was here, one of his consorts was Radharani, as we know. But then later, Rukmini as well became his actual queen. But indeed, in both cases, these are angshas of Lakshmi Devi. So these are plenary portions, avatars, incarnations of Lakshmi Devi herself. So yeah, that's one instance. There have been other instances as well. So indeed, when it comes to the avatar, we've said this before, I've said this, and this is said throughout the scriptures as well, that when it comes to Saraswati herself, when it comes to Narayana himself, when he comes upon the earth, he always brings Lakshmi with him. It's always Shriman Narayana coming upon the earth. Now, Lakshmi, like Narayana, will appear in different forms, and sometimes she is not visible at all, but it's still understood that she is with him as Srivatsa, as she is lying on his chest as he comes. Even if he seems alone, she's there.
So that means he's never brought Saraswati?
No. When he incarnates, he brings very specifically Lakshmi Devi. Yeah. Very good. One quick thing that I did want to do for fun, actually, I see that there are questions, and I'll get to those in a moment. Just wanted to show people, and I'll try to bring this close so you can see. This is the Devi Bhagavata Purana. And it's called, alternatively, it's called the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, which means the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it. Just like with the Srimad Bhagavatam, you can say Bhagavata Purana or Srimad Bhagavatam. The same thing with the Devi Bhagavata Purana. But just so that people have an idea of how immense this book is, it's enormous. This is 18,000 verses of the Devi Bhagavata Purana. This is the one I've had personally for a long time and that I've read through several times now, etc. And yes, it's small print, as you can maybe see. It's very, very small print, actually. So it's an enormous book. To read through this takes a long time. It's pretty much the same as reading the totality of the Bible, actually, both Old and New Testament together. So indeed, that is the Devi Bhagavata Purana. That's my own personal copy that I own. But with that, let me see what other questions there are here. Very nice. I see not a question, but a very nice and very true statement that is here. And it is, during his travel in Kashmira Desha, Sri Saraswati Devi personally appeared to Sri Ramanuja Acharya, bestowed him the title of Sri Bhashyakara, and gifted him her personal Hayagriva deity. Indeed. Yeah, that is a true story, actually, that Ramanuja himself, the great, 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 great philosopher, was bestowed the grace, the blessings of Saraswati personally. And indeed, he was the Bhashyakara. For people who don't know what that means, a Bhashyakara is an individual who writes an authoritative commentary upon the Vedanta Sutra, the Brahma Sutra. That's what this term means. So an individual, very simply, kara means to do, to make, to create, to act. Bhashya means a commentary. So an individual who writes an official, authentic commentary. So that title was bestowed upon Ramanuja, and indeed, she had her own murti of Hayagriva. Hayagriva is another avatar of Narayana who represents knowledge itself. Very good. Let's see what other questions there are. Very good. Again, not another question per se, but a very nice statement. Namaste Shri Acharyaji, Jaya Bhagavan Shri Rama. I am very happy I was able to make it to this evening's satsangha and to this amazing lecture. Thank you, Shri Guru, for the ever-fresh lessons I learned here. Well, thank you very, very much for those very kind words. I truly appreciate it. And of course, I know who you are, and I'm very happy that you're here as well and that you could make it this time, especially since, without giving anything away, I know this is a very important day for you. I know it's a very important day for you, and I won't say anything more, but thank you for being able to be here. Very nice. Now here's another nice question, and maybe, again, given the time, this will be the last question that I will answer, and then we'll meet again next week. And that is, which Upanishad would you suggest to someone who never read any of the Upanishads? Ishavasya Upanishad. Isha Upanishad. If you haven't read any of the Upanishads before, so thus naturally not having a lot of experience with the style of the Upanishads, the content of the Upanishads, etc., I would suggest starting with what is called alternately Ishavasya or Isha Upanishad. And the reason why that's the case is that it's only 19 verses. It's 18 verses plus an invocation, so 19 altogether. So it's very easy to read. You can read it pretty quickly, but it's also an essential Upanishad. Talk about Bhashyakaras, individuals who have written Vedantic commentaries. Almost all of them have commented on this Upanishad. because it's of vast importance philosophically, spiritually, in every way. It's a very important Upanishad, yet it's easily approachable. It's pretty straightforward. So if you read this Upanishad, you'll get a very nice sense of what the Upanishads are like, but it will be, again, easy to read. And the Isha Upanishad, it's been translated with commentary by Prabhupada. I also have translated the entire Isha Upanishad and have commented on it in lecture form. In the future, we're going to make that into a book, my translation and commentary. Again, it's all there. We have the transcription. I just need to work with it and kind of, expand it a little bit, edit it. And then that will be a book that will be available in the future, my own translation and commentary on Isha Upanishad. But I would certainly do that. Okay, this will be the last question that I'll answer, and then at that point we'll stop. And that is, Namaste Shri Acharyaji, should we worry about having too many murtis, sacred imagery on our altar space? Not worry about it. We should never worry about anything. And it certainly is not an offense to do so, but at the same time, no, you want to avoid doing this as much as possible. The reason why is, what is sadhana? What is meditation? What is contemplation? All of these elements of sadhana practice, of spiritual practice, have several elements in common, but one of which is focused awareness. Focused awareness. And you cannot have focused awareness by definition if you're trying to focus on 10, 20, 30 different things. And indeed, in modern times, and this is modern times, meaning the last maybe 100, 150, maybe you could stretch back to almost 200 years. I have seen, and you will see, people's altars, their home altars, where indeed they have maybe a table, something, and they'll have, again, 30, 40, 50 different images. They'll have images on the wall behind, and all kinds of statues and pictures and all sorts of things, to the point where, it would take you quite some time to kind of go through them all individually and realize, okay, who's this? Who's this? They have every god, every goddess. They'll even throw Jesus in there, they'll throw everyone in there. And it's amazing. Now, the thing is, this is not offensive. It's nice that they're trying and they want to give reverence to all of these, important beings. But it's not sadhana. It's not pointed awareness. It's not meditation. It's not actual systematic spiritual practice. Rather, what you want is to, in fact, keep your altar, if anything, as simple as possible. And it's interesting how many things you have on your altar, how many beings you'll have on your altar also corresponds indeed to how peaceful and versus how overly complex your mind is. I've seen this myself, again, as a practitioner for 51, almost 52 years. I've known people who have had altars like this, where they'll have 30 people on their altar, and as a personality, that person tends to be very scatterbrained. You can see that they're kind of all over the place, versus you have a more simple altar where, you can have a few images. You don't have to have only one, but you have to have just a few images, and you have to have the main image. That's the important thing. And they're all connected in the same way as far as rasa. They're all connected. When you have that, then you can do proper sadhana in a more simplified and thus pointed, focused sort of way. So this is why I recommend to people, you can have more than one image, but have them be related, but also don't have too many. Have a few such that there is the main image especially that you can focus on in your worship, in your bhajana, your worship, but also in your dhyana, in your meditation. Very good. Wonderful. So I hope that answers that question. So indeed, again, we're going to stop here. And, we will indeed get back together next Sunday, where we'll go through more verses from the Devi Bhagavata Purana. And we're getting close to the end, actually. I'd say maybe 2 more sessions and we'll be finished going through at least this section of the Devi Bhagavata Purana. And just to give you a little heads up and a little insider information, I'm also debating with myself whether, when this passage is done, to maybe do another passage, maybe even a few more passages from Devi Bhagavata Purana. Truthfully, I could comment on the entire work, but we don't have time for that. Or whether to go on to the next thing that I would like to do, and that is commentary on the Purusha Suktam. The Purusha Suktam is a section of hymns from the Rig Veda, very famous, actually. And I will do that eventually. It's just a question of when we finish this, will I jump into doing that, or maybe do a little bit more from Devi Bhagavata Purana first. So just so people know what to expect. Indeed, yes, this is a serious channel. There's no fluff here. This is a serious channel. So with that, again, we're going to stop here. Just to repeat to people, we have a Discord server. We have a forum. If you have enjoyed this sort of discussion and you would like to join a forum, an online forum where discussion takes place literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because we have devotees all throughout the world in so many nations, dozens and dozens. Please feel free to join our Discord server. I don't know if the link is here. Hopefully it is somewhere here. But please feel free to join our Discord server. And indeed, if you want to learn more about authentic Sanatana Dharma, not, again, as we say, not pan-Hinduism, anything in the kitchen sink thrown in about anything called Hinduism. No, that's not what we do. We are also not neo-Hindus. We don't care about Hinduism the way it's been practiced in the last 200 years. We're not New Age. We're not anything else. We're not speculative. We don't do comparative religion. That's for supposed scholars. Rather, if you want to learn real Sanatana Dharma, philosophically, the way it was understood 5,000 years ago, i.e. authentically, if you want to learn practice, because practice is everything. All this intellectual stuff is important. But if you're not sitting down and meditating at the end of the day, then it's just that, intellectual stuff. But if you want to learn about practice, if you want to make friends with good people who are also on the spiritual path, you want encouragement, you want advice, personal advice, etc., join our Discord server, because you will find true and authentic Vedic community there. The other thing is that we have our website, dharmacentral.com. If you haven't visited dharmacentral.com, please visit when you have a chance. And it is exactly as it sounds, Dharma Central. If you want resources on Sanatana Dharma, again, how to practice it, the books that we have available, etc., please feel free to visit our website. We do ask for donations, if and only if you can give, because this is not a YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel. What this is a movement. We had a movement before we had a YouTube channel. We had a movement decades before we started doing live streams. And our movement is in 70 nations now. So we have a movement, and we have many projects that, yes, we need donations for. Our goal is to restore Sanatana Dharma to this world. That being the case, if you would like to give a one-time donation, $5, $5 million, anything in between, go to dharmacentral.com and you'll see on the menu a place where you can donate. Or if you would like to become, even better actually, a monthly tithing member of the ISDS, you can also do that in the same place, dharmacentral.com. But with that, again, I thank you all very much for being here. Please join us next time. And in the meantime, between now and then, please take very good care of yourselves, and namaste. And everyone together, such that indeed the devas and devis in Svarga Loka, in the heavenly realms, can hear us. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Suryavansha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society. Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
May Dharma be victorious in our world. Evam bhavatu. May it be so. And so it shall be. Because the victory of Dharma is unstoppable. And with that, everyone, again, as I have been doing for some time, and I will continue to do for a little while longer, I leave you with these words of Bhagavan Sri Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66, wherein he says to Arjuna and to all of us, Ma shuchaha, do not fear. Do not fear. Do not fear. As I've told people for a long time, World War III is not coming. The Golden Age is coming. Evil will be vanquished. Vinashaya dushkritam. And good will triumph. Till the next time we get together, everyone, please take care.